Welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we are bringing in Matteo Collina. Matteo, how you doing?
Hi, Jason. How are you doing? I'm very happy to be here and on the show. It's I don't know, me and Jason we brushed a few times on Twitter. We finally met in London last April for CTJS.
Yes.
So it was, I don't know, it was so we should do a show about Node.js and all new things that are in the that have been coming in the pipeline and all sorts of things. So let's do that. And
Yeah.
here we go. We have done exactly, and here's the show.
So I'm super excited to talk to you about this for a lot of reasons. I mean, I've been following your work forever. I love the work that you've done on things like Fastify, and you're on the Node. You're a voting member of the TSC, right?
Yeah. I'm well, technically I'm vice chair.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
TSC.
Okay.
So I don't know if that means anything, to be honest. Typically, those roles are who leads the meetings and says, "Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Node.js technical." Sorry, this is the typical. It's how you greet the YouTube live stream. Okay, for our for watchers or something.
Got it.
Quite a few people actually watch the Node.js TSC live stream. So
I bet, yeah. So before we get too deep into the Node side of things, let's talk a little bit about you. So for folks who aren't familiar with you and your work, do you want to give us a bit of a background on yourself?
So yeah, absolutely. So hello, Matteo Collina. Started doing Node back when Node didn't work. It was Node 0.2. And it was absolutely insane to run Node in production, and didn't stop. At some point, I started finding a lot of bugs. First, bugs in libraries, then bugs in frameworks, then bugs in Node. And either my approach to this has been either fix or replace. And so far, I have been able to fix Node as much as I could. So, and there's a lot more fixes that I could want to do in Node that, they will break everybody, so I probably can't. But, Fastify was born out of my frustration with a few other very notable frameworks that you can find out there. Then we have Pino, the logger, which is even more used, and quite a lot of those things. So, yeah, that's the situation.
Yeah. So I think.
Oh, wait, just one more thing. I've been a consultant at Nearform for 8 years and a half. Then I decided that I wanted to do product, and I launched a startup. And the startup is called Platformatic. So check us out. Okay, if you're running Node.js, building Node.js APIs, please check us out. We even have something to auto-generate API clients, quite a lot of things that are quite useful. So, yay.
Yeah, I think I was taking a peek at Platformatic, and it is very exciting, especially if you've been working in a team. You got to coordinate a lot of different services, and have felt the frustration of that. I was really excited about some of the features there. But let's talk today about Node.js, because I think I've been using Node since about Node 6. I think that was when I really got into it. Was like it was around the time that there was that whole split with like IO.js, and then it got brought back in. And was that around 6? I don't remember exactly the time, but that was kind of like when I started.
You were Node 6 or Node 0.6?
Great question. I don't know.
Node 6 is post reunification. Okay, so the split happened between 0.10 and 0.12. Okay. And in fact, there was the Node 0.10 was the last Node release to some extent. Then the fork happened, and then we had Node 0.12, and we had IO.js, and we had IO.js 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Jeez.
Then the Node 0.12 got merged into the IO.js 3. So reality is we are running IO.js. Everybody's running IO.js now. And if you want to contact the Node.js TSC, you send an email to tsc@iojs.org.
Amazing.
So in
So
fact, you are all of you are running IOJS. You're not running Node.
I love it. I love it. So so I've been using it for a long time, and you know, I think that Node is one of those tools that's sort of a victim of its own success, because these days I hear a lot of people complain about it, but the things that they're complaining about don't actually feel like Node. They're things that are sort of like related to Node. So like NPM and the size of Node modules and Webpack config and stuff like that, where it's like we're not the challenge isn't that Node itself has problems. It's that there are challenges when you run an ecosystem of the size that Node has, when you are dealing with the very varied preferences that developers have when they work on tools. But I think one of the criticisms that I had heard about Node that felt valid was that a lot of the things that felt like they should be built in weren't built in. Like to start a project, you needed Node, but then you also needed Nodemon, and then you needed, you'd always have to reach for like a few more packages. And so it felt, and I think that was sort of the big selling point that you would hear from any competitors to Node, is they were like, oh, it's all built in. You don't need all that. It's just one runtime for all of it. And recently I was looking at Node, and it feels like at this point, when we criticize Node for those types of things, it sort of feels like we're criticizing a ghost, because that's not what Node is anymore. It doesn't have those same challenges. So, and that was why I wanted to talk to you, is because I feel like there's almost a perception of Node that's stuck in the past, where people are remembering what it was like to run Node 8 or Node 10, and we're on Node 22 now.
Yeah.
So obviously, like 10 major versions, we've come a long way, right? So how, like, as somebody who's very close to the project, have you felt the same? I guess like I'm kind of putting words in your mouth. How have you felt about the public perception of Node?
Okay, so 90%, probably more. I don't know. I'm making a bet. I don't know. A huge number of people that use Node.js are using Node.js like they were in 2015. There has been a few very popular articles and courses being written on those in those years, and that's what everybody's using. Okay, to be honest, this is my this is my take. Okay, so a lot of people have been using those and have been using those and have been creating or causing all sort of problems with that. Okay, so basically 2015, okay, Node became massively popular. It starts this massive growth. Okay, and it's right now, right after the split, Node starts evolving again. It's great. Everybody start working on it. Okay. The success is so big that things cannot be changed anymore. Okay. And then Node.js, it got stuck into the same problem of the web in general. Okay. You cannot break the web. Okay. And Node.js is essentially stuck in that more or less same conundrum, that you essentially can more or less write an application like it's 2015, and more or less it will still work in modern Node. Okay, maybe a few adaptation here or there, but to be honest, one of the most popular framework for Node, Express, runs the same code of Express can run from 0.8 up to 22. Okay, this is a level of stability of the project. Okay, so essentially, we have not broken much. Okay, there have been breaking changes, new features, new majors, stuff like that. But the core of the project has not broken everybody. In fact, there is still even some very, very obscure, deprecated feature that we can't really get rid of because we will break the ecosystem. Okay.
Sure.
Like even botched stuff like domain. The domain module is so damn botched and is still there because so much of the ecosystem relies on it. Okay. And which is a massive pain. Okay, to be honest. So we had experiments, we had the experimental features. Once something lands, it's very hard to get rid of it in Node.js.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will, if it's popular, we start using it immediately, and then if you try to yank it, then you're in big trouble.
Right.
So 2015, massive popularity. There is this. Then in 2018, like all across the years, massive amount of content gets produced. Okay, there is infinite amount of content in everywhere. Okay, about Node. For example, there is content about all sorts of things in the chat on Udemy or other platform. Okay, and then nobody updated that content anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the problem when you write a blog post or you produce a video, and you know it very well, Jason. You produce a piece of content and that is set in stone. While documentation docs on the website can keep being updated, a blog post or a video, it's not. It has or a course, it has a time to live. Okay,
Right.
It has a freshness aspect to it. Problem being, I was checking recently, and somebody said I'm not republishing the same stuff of years past, changing the year.
Interesting. Okay, so and actually this brings up a really valid point, because one of my most popular videos that I've released was from 2016, and it was on how to build a Node server. And that still gets traffic today. Despite me having released in the meantime, like I just wrote a new post within the last few months about how to set up a modern Node server with TypeScript today, which has one dependency, which is TS Node. But the one that I wrote in 2016 has a bunch of dependencies because those features weren't built in yet, right? And so the one that I just wrote isn't getting the pickup that the one in 2016 did. So how do we solve this problem? That's a really valid point.
This is my main, this is the main concern, is the Node.js project is shipping stuff, doing stuff, in producing new things. Nope, nobody give a damn thing about anything. Okay. You keep writing software like it's 2015. Okay. Like one example, I'm just making one example. Okay. One of the biggest problems that we had in 2013, 2014, 2015, those years, was that the support for WebSockets were not widespread. Okay. And Socket.io was more or less one of the biggest solution to this problem. Okay. Because it's essentially removed the problem and said you can use, all various systems, and it will just create the level of interactivity that you need. Great project. Okay. However, now WebSocket is everywhere. Okay. And yet I'm still seeing blog posts being published, content being published, written, video being recorded that show how to use Socket.io.
Right.
Okay. And by the way, it makes absolute no sense to use Socket.io in 2014. WebSocket is everywhere. So just use WebSocket. Okay. Sorry, this is for all of you that are listening. Okay, but this is just one example of a phenomenal popular module that was great. It solved a very specific problem back then. Okay, I used it. Everybody used it. Fantastic. Okay, now everywhere we have WebSocket. So, and it's working very well across all reverse proxy, all CDNs, everywhere. So there's absolutely no need to use that. Okay, like it's the support for it has rolled out across all proxy servers. Like there's no need to go to punch that wall anymore. Okay, that's to make an example of one of the things. Okay, that are bad in there. Okay, and they still follow the tutorial in 2015. Like the Node.js can release a lot of things, but one of the reasons I wanted to be in this call is to talk about what's new. Okay, because a lot of people don't know, they're still doing 2015.
Yeah.
So,
And I guess this is the other problem too, is that body of work then, what Esther's saying here is that, ChatGPT is also going to pick up that body of work. And so even now, I'm assuming that this is the joke. If you ask ChatGPT, it's going to tell you to use Socket.io.
Yay. Yep.
But I think that's a very like good kind of an encapsulation of the challenge that we face, is that if we're not actively looking at what's going on with the project itself, then we run the risk of falling into habits that were valid at the time but aren't valid anymore. This would be the equivalent of, like jQuery was this giant leap forward for the web. But once all the good parts of jQuery got built into the platform, continuing to use jQuery is fine, but you don't need to. It's extra work for no real reason. And that, and that was sort of like the stated goal of jQuery was, we want to solve this problem until we don't have to anymore, and then we'll fade away, which is always my favorite type of project.
But it never did.
It never did. I mean, it's still on something ridiculous, like 70% of the web. But the maintainers had a pretty clear intent.
And you don't know how much was the bill for the CDN, by the way. Everybody uses the CDN, and you know the bill for that CDN. I don't remember who does it, but they give it to the project for free. Otherwise, the bill will be incredible. So. I'm also part of the OpenJS board of directors.
Okay.
So I am in the group that oversees all these projects, including jQuery, Webpack, ESLint, and all sorts of things. So, but most of the time we talk about budgets. So that's why.
Yeah. As it tends to go. But so knowing then that a lot of the articles and tutorials might be presenting information from 2015 as opposed to 2024, what are we missing? I was pretty surprised when I went into the Node docs and I realized that there were a bunch of features that people weren't talking about, and this is why I ended up writing this article. I'll drop a link to it in the chat real quick for anybody who wants to see it. This is the 2024 article, and this was one of those moments where I kind of was like, the light bulb came on and I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure that all the things that I think about Node are outdated. Like I'm pretty sure that those problems have been addressed in the project. And then I got into the docs and I started looking around and I realized that, yeah, in fact, that's true. It is like a whole new tool. The things that used to be really painful, like managing ES modules, managing watch mode, managing hot reload, stuff like that, like it's all just kind of works now. Like it's just there.
It's just there. It's slowly getting better and better. We are plugging all the holes essentially and finding new bugs. Okay, it's actually very, very tricky. So it's really, really really nice. So yeah, I really like it, to be honest. Right now, I was chatting with one of the Platformatic clients today, one of our customers, and they have this fantastic setup, which they do. They use the new Node.js test runner. They use TSX, and they use the loader system, so that it's all TypeScript, but they just transpile it on the fly using Node Test Runner to run things, and things are absolutely so speedy and super, super nice. Like you run it and just tuck, the test runs instantaneously. You start the app boots like that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's you make a change, it automatically restart itself. It's a completely new world. It's a brand new world essentially on a lot of those things. So it's really, 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 really nice.
Yeah, and that's kind of what got me. That was what got me thinking I needed to talk to you or somebody else on the Node team, because it just feels like we're not measuring Node on its merits. We're measuring Node on its history, which is a very that's just kind of a bummer of a way to go about dealing with software projects, because every project had issues when the platforms couldn't support these things. Like, Socket.io existed because WebSocket support was just janky, right? And if we held everybody to that standard of like what they could do in 2014, it's like, well, yeah, we're not going to make any progress ever, right? So I think this is what I'd like to do today. Is I would like to, let's see if we can maybe stand up a project and start using some of these new features and see how far we can get without adding dependencies or adding very minimal dependencies. So if you're up for that, I'm going to switch us over into.
Absolutely, let's do it. Oh, my light is gone.
All right. Well, while
it's fine. Don't worry. I'm just plugging it in. So we got. So I need to move the screen. So I'm not going to look at you anymore. Okay, just so that you are aware. I'm just moving the screen and putting it on the other monitor, so you can see. I have a much less fancy setup than you do. Okay, and I have this. So I need to. So this is the camera, but I need to look here.
So this is good. Now it looks like we're both looking at the code now. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so before I start, let me do a quick shout out. Thank you to our sponsors, NX and Netlify, who kick in to make the show more accessible. We've got Vanessa here from White Coat Captioning, taking down all of these words into the link below. If you need the live captions, they're there for you at lwj.dev/captions. And that is, very, very much appreciated. And then we are talking to Matteo.
Hello.
And your Twitter profile is here. Let me drop a link to that into the chat.
Hi.
And we are talking today. Let me get over to a cleaner page. We're talking about Node.js. So here is the Node.js homepage. I'm on the
we shipped a new website. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you shipped a new website. And look at this. I checked this out. Branding. Look at this. Look at this amazing thing that has happened.
We did a mascot. Yeah, we did a mascot.
Node's got a mascot. And so, there's really just like the potential for criticism is vanishing quickly. You got a great mascot. You got a new website. Like,
it's actually written with Next. Come on, it's also modern. Like, it was used. The website was so clunky. Okay, took forever to ship this. By the way,
I can imagine, because there's a ton of information on this site. Okay, so if I want to dig in here and I want to try the modern Node, what should I do first?
Okay, you should have Node installed. So there's still a lot to go. Okay, so you should have a terminal. Okay, and you should have something like NVM.
Okay, do I have NVM? I think I do.
If you don't have NVM, okay, you are in trouble. Okay, just for you that are listening, you should be installing Node using NVM. Okay, if you are on Mac or a Linux-based system. Okay, mostly because otherwise you are absolutely it's not going to work. Okay,
it's going to be challenging.
Yes, big time. Okay, so there's a lot of other ways in which you can actually get a good, decent Node.js installation, but nope, this is the only one that it's simple. It just works out of the box. Okay, so we have Node.js 22. Okay, so one of the first thing that a lot of people complain about. Okay, you have you have a specific one of the complaints is that Node.js is slow. Okay, and is slow to start. It has a slow boot time. Okay, now Node.js 22.1 shipped a fantastic new feature. Okay, called node_module._cache. Okay, it's an environment variable, and you can, if you go, this was just announced. Okay, in the latest. This is literally the latest release, and it has node_compile_cache. So if you, for example, you run node_compile_cache on on your app, you can see that it starts so much faster. Okay.
Okay.
Let's give that a very simple try. Okay. Yeah. Can you write us just a small TypeScript file and do something
Okay.
like that?
So I'm gonna do an index.ts.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, just put an hello word in there, just fine. It's yep. And
okay, so we're gonna go with a console log.
yeah, just do that. Okay. And then now do time. Okay, and space npx space. Oh no, sorry. You need the sorry about that. You do an npm init and install TypeScript. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Okay, so we're gonna call it here.
Yeah,
we'll just go through all these. Good.
And install TypeScript. So npm install
TS Node or TypeScript?
TypeScript. I just want to demo a specific feature of TypeScript. You probably still love type. Okay, we have TypeScript. Great. So now you have TypeScript. Now let's try that. You do time npx tsc. Very basic, compiling the stuff with the defaults. Okay. So I'm not doing anything. Okay. This took, I don't know.
0.5 seconds.
Yep. Now do the same command, but at the beginning add node _module _cache. All capitalized. It's an environment variable. Yep. And equals /temp/node. tmp/tmp/node.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same command.
Let's see. Time npx tsc.
Yep.
What did I do wrong? Time npx.
Oh, do an export. Sorry, export.
Oh, right. I know how Bash works.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, you need to, do the export and then run time. I don't know, for whatever reason this is not.
Oh, I gotcha.
Okay, then time. Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
so
sorry. No.
Let's see. That was 338 total.
No, it's not picking it up. No, you need to go up at the one that was at the beginning.
The one that was at the beginning?
The first one.
Let's see. This was our
same. It's not picking it up.
Let me make sure that this is actually picking up. Well, actually, is this where my So that's why.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, you don't have. Oh, put /tmp, or maybe create that folder.
Okay, so we'll do make dir.
No, you can just put it there. You can just put it on the local thing. Just create a directory there. Call it cache.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can spell it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, redo the export and. Yeah.
And we'll go to cache.
Yep.
And then run that again.
It's not picking it up. Pretty sure. Do node-v. This is here. Very, very odd. Try doing node. ./node _modules. .bin. ./tsc. Yep. Run this. Okay. Run it with time at the beginning.
That was a lot faster.
Yeah. Told you.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, this is very quick. And so then we're looking at.
So what is happening here is for some reason this caching is not working through npx, so that's part of the problem. But if you look inside the node, that if you do an ls of that cache fog.
What was it called? Node modules cache.
Yeah.
I also feel like I'm not getting this to work. Let me
sorry, yeah, retry. I don't know why it's not picking it up on the export.
I have a hunch that it's because my maybe we can just like put this into Let's go node modules cache. No, this isn't going to work because then it's going to not be. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is my fault because my bash is so jacked up from like the million things that I install every week. So I'm pretty sure
try running it on the same line. So node underscore modules.cache equals
node modules cache equals.
Yeah.
This is the .cache folder.
Yeah, exactly.
And then,
node, and this the node.
Yeah, so this was node, and then we're going into node modules.
TSC.
Bin TSC.
Yeah.
And that's
Run.
it.
Yeah. Okay, this is running.
Okay, so that's running. So then if I try to go in and run it with
time, yeah.
Do I need to put the time in front?
No.
No.
Time needs to be there. Try putting the quotes between the dot cache. The time needs to be there. Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
I don't know why your system is not using this syntax.
It is fighting me.
I have no idea what you got on your bash, man.
It's a mess.
I have no idea.
It is Z shell.
It's sorry, it's the wrong environment variable. It's node compile cache, not module cache.
Node compile cache, but that even still.
Yeah, but you so do an export node compile cache. Try that. I don't know why your bash is.
Yeah, and this is the weird part. Is like I'm pretty sure if we just
node compile cache.
Node compile cache.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Hey, there it goes. There it goes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Run time node. Yep.
Hey, all right. There we go. So now we're cooking with gas. And so
no. Wait a second. It went from 120 0 to 0 120 at 120 milliseconds to 0.8 millisecond 0.80.
Right. It went 75% after we hit that cache.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous. And then it gets so it sits right around like 0.06, 0.08.
And if you try zapping the cache, the rm.rf rm/rf rm-rf dot cache. Yep. And run it again, and you see.
So 127, and then we run it again, and now that it's cached, it gets nice
you probably
and fast.
need to run it a few times for the cache to
come. So it's about 0.08 is what we're seeing. So that's a like 30-ish% improvement, 35.
Yeah. Probably on this one, probably on other executables, it'd even be bigger, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we're literally parsing a hello world here. So like we're not doing real work. Like if we were doing real work.
No, it's not. This is not the real world. This is the TypeScript. This is the TypeScript executable. We are not running that.
Oh, it's not parsing this one for us?
You need to probably do the compiling. You need to, I don't know why it's not picking it up. I don't know why TSC is not compiling it. Yeah, they do this.
There we go. And then that picks it up. And so now that's 0.4, and then we run it again.
Yeah. This is zap the cache. This is the full compilation of this. You're running the full project. So
okay, and then run it like this.
Yep. Again, this is without the cache.
Uh-huh.
And you run it again, and then you got that with the cache. You see there's a little bit, you get that, I don't know, 30, 50 milliseconds out of the way on startup. The more modules you load, the bigger this become. Okay, the more benefit this you got. Okay, so this is now. This is, we got that out of the way. Let me show you something so nice. If you go install TSX, I like TSX because it's actually very easy, but you can just use also TS Node, but I don't remember the syntax. So
TSX?
TSX, yes, TypeScript. Okay. TSX is this fancy compiler that uses ESBuild within, so it's super fast. Okay. Now, you know what you could do for running your index.ts file? You could do node -- import equals TSX. Yep, and you put the index.ts file.
There we go.
Okay, this is nice because then you can also do with watch.
Oh, right. And then all I have to do for that is add one of these now, right?
Yeah.
So that's completed. And then if I come in here.
And
look at that, y'all. We didn't have to install. I don't know how to pronounce it. Nodemon.
I call it Nodemon, but
I
Nodemon
remember
is make also sense. I don't know.
It was also. I feel like they even trolled in the about for it, where they were like, "You can call it whatever you want." And I was like, "Come on, give me an answer."
Okay, so this is nice. Okay, because with this combo, you can actually have a self-restarting system. Okay, and you actually have this without anything. If you use TypeScript, you will have to use a compiler, okay? And Node.js is not going to ship a TypeScript compiler within Node, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One specific reason, it's the TypeScript team does not recommend it to. Why?
Right.
Because TypeScript is phenomenal. Like saying that TypeScript is a language, it's not necessarily correct. TypeScript is I call it a multiverse of languages. Depends on what you put in your tsconfig.json.
Right.
And if we had to include essentially compile TypeScript by default, we will have to solidify in stone what the default tsconfig.json is for Node, like Dino has done. Okay. And like if you look at how people use TypeScript today, you will not find two projects that have the same tsconfig.json file. In fact, my friends at Bloomberg, they've done well. When we rolled out TypeScript everywhere in the company, the first thing we did was this is the tsconfig.json for the company, so that when you move from one code base to another, it just works. Okay, so and we are like unlikely to do that for all the Node.js users, because there is this special relationship between TypeScript and Node and so on. So this is one of the critical things that we are not shipping. Okay, so that's why you still need to install TypeScript or TSX, okay, or TS Node or whatever. Now let's do a change. Okay, let's change something, and in this thing we can add a type module because we really like ESM. Okay, so. Or actually, even better. So remove that, scrap that. Okay, we don't need it. Now, create a new file over there called index.or server.js.
.js or TS?
JS. I don't know how this plays with TypeScript. It's a new feature that I'm going to show. So here you just use import. Okay, we have not specified ESM. We're not doing anything. We can do import, okay, and let's do import create server from node::HTTP. It's you need to extract it.
It's a named one.
Yes, a named one. Yep. From node::HTTP. Great. By the way, Node.js decided to put the node prefix in there because we don't want to claim like we had essentially a right of first choosing on module names. We can never override everybody. We didn't feel like it was a good thing. Okay, we think that we needed to be namespace somehow, so we did that.
I think that's a good move. And then you're gonna have to remind me how create server works. So
create server is just a basic node server. So you do exactly like that. Okay, great. And then
it's server dot. Oh wait.
You need to put an handler. So you still use events. So on request, unfortunately. Like a lot of people don't know this. So server is just an event emitter. So on it's an event emitter. So you need to put on server.on.
Server.on.
And request. Yep. And then you got the old function request and response. Rack and res.
Okay.
Very old school.
And so I can do something like
console. Well, you want to respond. So yes, you do console log. Yep. Yep.
And then we return.
No, you can't. You need to do rest.end. This is part of the stuff that I want to change. And
right.
So you need to have the request, the rest end.end, but that's the request. So you need two objects. The first one is the request, Yep, exactly. Rest.end.
Okay, so we're gonna, or we can even do like a.
Nope,
one
that
of
doesn't
these.
exist. Those are
That doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist. Nope. End.
Okay.
Not send. End.
End.send. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, hello. And you can put hello inside it, whatever, some string in it. Yep. This is the part that we did not improve. This is been the same since ever and ever, so that we didn't break you. Okay. This is the reason why you can still run your project for 2015 and it will still work just fine. Okay. Now, what's actually cool here, okay, is that now you need to start your server. Okay. And you call server.listen as you always done.
Server.listen.
And you put in your port.
And our port is, we'll do 3000 because that's the classic.
Yeah, exactly. And you run your thing. Okay.
Okay. And now do I just node server?
Yeah, it will throw a big error to you.
Okay. Let's look at our big error. So we got cannot use import statement outside of a module. Right. And that's to be expected because we didn't set it to be type module.
Yep.
And then we're using the import syntax instead of the require syntax.
Yes. So what you're going to ship is and this will be enabled by default at some point in the future, is a flag. You go back in your terminal. You can do a Node.js at the top. Before server.js, you need to put before server. Yep. -- experimental --detect --module.
Oh. Cool. Okay, so then head over here. We'll go to localhost 3000. And it sends back our response here. Yep. And then I've got my request coming in there as well.
Yeah.
Dope. This is great.
Okay. The other big thing that everybody is complaining about, okay, is require ESM.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of what was shipped in Node 20. Okay. Which it's actually quite nice. So let me, okay. So what you can do, for example, let's say that you want to copy this module and let's do a CJS version. Oh, a CJS version of it. Okay.
A CJS version of this?
Index.js. Okay. Yep.
And you want me to do it as like a .cjs?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. In there, sorry, I did a mistake. Okay, I wanted the server one, not this one.
Oh, I got you.
Sorry. Yeah. So let's do a CJS version of it. Okay. And let's say that you want to, yep. Go back to the old. Yep.
Here.
And this is what people have been. Yep, exactly. This will work the exact same thing. Okay. This is nice. Okay. Now, you run this. Okay. You can run this. And now what you can also do, okay, if you create another file called foo.mjs. So it's actually this time is a module, because a lot of people, you started publishing modules as ESM. Okay. Mm-hmm. Here you do export function something. Yep. And yep, that's fine. Yep. So in server.js, this is our server. Okay. What you can do now, we can do const.
Called it something.
Yep. And you can require that MJS file.
Interesting. Okay. That's exciting because that didn't work before. We had to do like an await import, right?
Yep. And this is the flag. I'm passing in the flag. So, yep. Okay. And now if you run this will not work. You need server.js. Yep. And this will not work because you're missing something. Okay. Still a new flag. It's called -- experimental -require module.
Okay. I guess we don't need the detect module this time, do we?
Yeah, no, we don't, but it doesn't matter anything. And now it actually works.
It works. and we get our ESM. And now this is going because we're also sending it's a web browser, so we send like an options request, and then we do our get request, and so that's why we're seeing multiple requests come through.
Yeah. It's you got two because there's the favicon request. So
right. Yeah.
The browser asked for a favicon, and then you got two requests. So it's pretty nice. Okay, it's you can get this done pretty quickly. Now, let me show
this. So two things that I think are worth just kind of pointing out, like huge complaints in the ecosystem have been about the challenges of CommonJS and ES modules, and more specifically the interoperability of the two. And the fact that in this project with no dependencies other than TypeScript, which we're not using in this case, we have an ESM version where we are running this server as an ES module. And then we have a CommonJS version where we're importing an ES module, all working in Node with no parsing, no transpiling, no detection, no Webpack, no anything. It just works.
Yep.
That's huge.
And I want to thank all the people that made it possible, because it's not that all of these came for all of this came from a lot of sweat for a lot of people. Okay. And it's actually quite insane how all the fact that all of this works in this way. And it's been a gargantuan effort, not because it's a gargantuan effort, because you need to bolt this kind of support on top of existing things. Okay. It's not about the everybody wanted to do this from the beginning. Okay. The problem is that there was a lot of other challenges that we have been able to overcome. Okay. In the latest few years, like you would imagine that we broke everybody was so damn pissed at Node team when we changed the loaders format last year. And without that specific change, these things would not have been possible. So these things have been like, a lot of people say, oh, Node.js has done this because of, I don't know, X made it, blah, 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 or X did something, or Y did something else. More or less, part of a lot of this stuff were in the plans. Okay. It's just that, we're in the idea of people, but we were blocked by certain changes. Okay. So moving the loaders to another thread allowed us synchronous communication with that. So we could actually run an asynchronous loader while doing a require ESM and blocking the main thread, because then the loader can run asynchronously on the other side. It's pretty cool. Like it's
really, really cool stuff.
They like all of this is actually frigging complex if you look at it. Okay, like it's frigging complex. Okay, it's really, really complex code.
Yeah, I mean the sometimes I get a wild hair and I tell myself that I'm going to go like mess with an AST transformation so that I can get a little bit of code and make it do something magic, and then I realize how deep this rabbit hole goes, because I'm just trying to get an image tag from Markdown into HTML and my whole brain hurts. And I'm thinking about how the folks who are working on these lower levels are literally transpiling formats, like from one completely incompatible spec to another in a way that is now, from my perspective, completely seamless. Like this is some absolute arcane magic.
The point is not just doing it. The point is doing it without breaking everybody and breaking the spec.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
how do you do it within
and supporting all the use cases people want to use ESM with? Okay. So and if ESM was built to only be executed synchronously, then probably you will not have had an await import. Okay, you just have an import and would have been sync. So in fact, all of these also work, for example, with remote loading of software. Like this is another arcane feature that we shipped last year. You can actually load the JavaScript file from an HTTP source if you want to. I haven't tested it, so I don't know how it would work. But there is a lot of. This is the blog post from Joey, so there is a lot of here. Okay, and you can explain. She has to explain all the things. It's in very great details. Okay. And basically the spec was bad. Then in 2019 the spec was fixed. Then the word went kaboom. A lot of people stopped working on the stuff. There was a bit of shuffling on the project and so on and so forth. And then Joey picked up the threads for a lot of those things. Okay, and thanks to, I think, Bloomberg, who funded their work for this. So I just wanted to say. There was somebody that put the money where their mouth was and funded the work, okay? Because Node.js is a project run by volunteers. We don't have magical VC money, okay? Platformatic has some magical VC money. We are trying to build a company, okay? Node.js is not a company. It's a group of volunteers. So because Node.js is a group of volunteers, people, if you want to make something happen with Node, you need to do it, okay? And if you need to spend, I don't know, a month doing something, somebody needs to pay for your bread and rent. And
right.
And, if you are employed with a company, some margin for your employer too. So, thanks to all the people that contribute to Node and fund Node.js work. If you are a company that are watching this and you think, oh, I have a bug with Node and I want it fixed, maybe ask how can we get it? How can we pay somebody to do the fix? Okay.
Yes.
Essentially, this is a very, very important part. How can we pay somebody to do the fix for us? Or how can we send them? How can we send the money? If you ask or something, it's not. And by the way, it would be fantastic to have a lot of $10 sponsorship. But to be honest, $10 sponsorship are not necessarily. You need a lot of them. Okay,
right.
You will need
a
huge lot to start making the dent. Okay, it's consider that Node.js right now has more or less something around 100 collaborators working on it, and maybe 50 very active ones. So there's a lot of people working on this every single day. And a lot of them are just literally like working to keep the lights up. Like, we're not talking about security and a lot of other things. Something I want to show you about a couple of other features that we shipped in the last few years that were not something like, go back to the .js one because I like it. Okay. Now, a very interesting feature is in the util modules. Two features. Okay. If you go in the util module, okay, you can see that there has been a few very nice things being shipped. So the first one is parse args.
Is it util or utils?
Util.
Okay. Parse args.
Yep.
Okay.
And parse args, as the name sounds, is what you use to part the argument of your code. Okay. That are coming. So you can do, for example, something like const. If you go open you can copy the snippet. Is probably quicker than me telling you. So you can just copy that. Okay, I just passed it in the chat, but I don't know if you have.
Oh, you put it in the chat. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Let me copy this.
Oh, but that's the first one. You can go into the first link. There's stuff you can copy. Yeah.
Okay, great. So then we're going into parse args.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get parse args.
Yeah. And then you can copy something like that.
Okay. And now this here, these options, this is like validation.
Yep. It's and parsing. So you can do.
Oh. That's very okay. So then let's
a lot of people blog post for 2015. Okay, so now you need to inside args. You need to, instead of args there, you need to put just can delete that line, and instead there you can do process dot arg
What is happening?
args.
Okay.
Yep. Try that. And
okay. And so here I go server.js and I can say
foo. Yeah, that would not work.
That one doesn't work. I did it wrong.
No, because parse arg are no.
It worked because the validation is there. So if I do one of these and I make this into a string,
yeah,
now it'll work because we put the validation together. Yeah. Oh my God, this is incredible. Because we used to need yargs or what's the other one that I forget the name of, but like there were whole packages completely dedicated to this.
Commander, whatever. Yeah.
And so to have this just built in, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Because now to build a CLI.
Yeah, even better. So what you can do is use another thing in util, which is style text.
Come on. So now we don't need chalk either.
Nope.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay, so then you're gonna have to remind me how this one works, though.
Oh, you call if let's say that you want to print your chat message, okay? So you do style text, and you need to put it's a function. So you put in the color that you want. So let's say you can you say green, okay?
Green.
And then you can do values dot I think.
Values dot high.
Yeah, because the values,
values.
Yeah, let's try that. Don't remember what was in that. Yeah, let's run it.
Oh no! Look at that!
Now,
holy crap!
Okay, if you want, go there. If you put that inside an array, the green. If you put the green,
inside an array, got it.
Put the greens in an array, then you add a comma and you add in a string like underlined, underline. Yep. Try again.
Like this, I mean, this is exactly what I loved about how like jQuery influenced the browser. Is we saw what everybody needed out of JavaScript, and then that got built back into the browser, into the platform. And this is the same thing. Node, everybody was using Commander yargs. Everybody was using chalk. Everybody was using Nodemon. Everybody was using all of these different packages. And so you can look at where the common term that I don't know how common this is, but I've heard it described as cow paths. Like people pave the cow paths. And so then if you observe where the cow paths are, that's where you lay down like structure. And so you bring that in and you make that possible so that now we don't need all of those, like the amount of effort that I have spent trying to figure out what the best package is to do colored text, what the most up-to-date way is to do command lines. Like
the funniest part of this is there was so much pushback in shipping style text because the author of Chalk and a lot of those modules were rightfully a little bit concerned that their module would be affected. Okay. Now, part of this is everybody like color text. So at some point, Node.js decided, well, we need this feature in, so we actually need to produce color text, okay?
Right.
And after we got the feature in, then the question was, well, we might as well make it public.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So there is that, okay? So there's a lot to talk probably about the test runner, okay? Too.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if you want to go there. Before we go there, though, I want to show you a couple of other features. Okay.
Okay.
So the other feature. So let's do another little bit of an example of something nice. So one of my personal pain in ESM when doing ESM was getting the current directory. I could never remember how to get it. okay, of a file. So I have my file. How can I get the current directory of an ESN? Do you know, for on top of your bat, Jason?
I don't remember how to get it. I knew how to get the directory in CommonJS, but not in ESN.
Perfect. As everybody, you can do console.log. No need to import anything. Console.log. Import.meta.dirname.
Oh, we just get it now.
Yes.
Oh, that's huge. And then
just run it. It will just
also
work.
Look at this. We get process and the import.meta in the same file.
Yeah. Process was always there. Process are global, so that's cool. We don't get require.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. So then down here we've got
go up. Here we go.
There's our dir name.
Okay. Now we're going to use a new feature that ships in Node 22. So go at the top and you do go up to the top, import, and you a named args glob from node fs node:/promises. And this does exactly what it says on the tin. Okay. So now over there, you go. We glob this. Okay, we want to glob that thing. Okay, that directly.
And I need to await it, right?
You don't. You just need to use a for await. No. You do a very nice for await. Okay.
Dir name.
No, it's not that. For await const. So for space await. This is
await. Right. Const file.
Yep.
Of.
Const file of glob.
Okay.
And you need the await after the parentheses at the beginning. Before, sorry, the parentheses at the beginning. Yep.
There we go.
Console log file. I don't know if this works.
We can style this up. Look at it go. Here we go. I'm just gonna...
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay, so now I'm going to restart it.
So this is fine. It's one because we need the glob patterns. So you need to add at the bottom after that. After that, you need to add a string. Okay. No, you need to. Unfortunately, you need to concat that. So you need a plus.
I got you.
Or you need a path join. Yeah.
Let's do it this way then. We'll do one of these. One of those.
You want a slash. You're missing a slash. Yep.
Okay, so then we do one of these. And holy crap, look at us go. We've got... This is awesome. Like, this is great because these are the types of things that I'm always trying to do. I want access to the file system. I want to, print something out that looks nice. I want, there's a million things that I need to do when I'm building a CLI or I'm working in one of my backend services. And knowing that this is just built into Node 22 and beyond, this is all in 22?
All of this is in 22. It's some of it will be backported, some of it can't be backported. So it's a hit and miss on what we'll get on Node 20. But some of it will get into Node 20 eventually.
Gotcha. I mean, this is slick. Like, this looks fantastic. Okay, and so I just want to... we got about 15 minutes before we'll have to start winding down. And I know you wanted to look at the test runner.
There is one more thing I want to show here. Okay. Let's remove the / the * in the pattern. Okay, let's remove that. Just run it and remove the server from the bottom. We don't need the server. Or comment it out, so at least it's yeah. Okay, perfect. That's fine. So we just get the output.
Okay. Whoops.
Yep. Here we go. Okay, so cool. Okay, a few files. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that we want to read the files. Okay. I want to show this to you because it's actually quite what you will do old school is different from what you will do it today. Okay. This is not necessarily new stuff. Okay. It's stuff that we shipped around 2019, 2020, but a lot of people still haven't realized this is possible. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go at the top, okay, go at the top of the file, we add import create read stream as a named import from Node.js. Node, yeah. So if you scroll down, so now we have the path, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
say that if the file ends with .js, so if file ends with .js, only do JS. So we got multiple files. Okay. And remove the dot. So it's just we get the CJS, the MJS. We have a bunch of files over there.
I got you. Okay.
So now you can create stream. So do const stream equals create stream. Yeah. And you pass in file. Now we want to read all the chunks and make it capitalized. Okay. To do that, old school will say use on data. If you use on data, all the output will be garbled because we opened this file at the time. However, we can process them one by one. So what you can do is for await and const chunk of stream.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can do console log and you do the green, use the green color. So now we can do chunk dot to string and to uppercase or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Let's try that.
Look at it go. Oh my God.
So the amount of code that these two things together, these 5 to 10 lines, the amount of code these replaced in
like it's incredible. Like these are the sorts of things that when I was getting started in Node and I would try to do something where I was reading files or I was getting into the file system, this was the stuff that always tripped me up because there were a lot of different packages I needed and I was jumping between a lot of different sets of docs and unless they were using exactly the stack I was using, I was having to sort of think through how to adjust the code to match the stack I was on. So the fact that this is all just part of Node now, it makes it feel so much less intimidating and it makes me feel like I'm less hesitant to reach for this type of solution now. I can just I can just grab the contents of that file. Yeah, of course I can because it's 6 lines of code.
Yes, and you can, and we have also another utility called watch that works in the exact similar way. So you can, if you not this one, sorry, not that.
Oh, not this one.
Not this one. So if you go at the top of that same file, you do next to glob, you add glob, you can comma watch. Okay. And now you can, if you go scroll, replace glob with comment that line and then duplicate that line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and put glob in the previous one so we don't lose it. I'm going to comment 20 out.
Oh my God. There we
go. Yep, perfect. And remove the star at the end. Okay, run this now.
Okay.
So now it stays up because the files is it's watching. Now save this file.
Oh no. Text argument must be of type string.
What we did wrong.
Parse an ES module.
No, this is this go scroll down.
The text argument must be of type string.
22.
Oh, I know why.
Oh, because it's an object. That's an object.
Yeah.
It's not
So that's just me trying to console log something that's not console loggable. So
yeah, exactly.
file ends with is not a
So
function.
it's,
Oh, we got all sorts of stuff in here that we.
It's file name. It's file name. So you need to do, file is file name.
File name.
File name. Yeah. File name.
Okay.
I think. And you need to also put it in the list stream. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Try that. Save. Ha!
And then down here.
No, you will never reach. Yep.
See? Incredible. Like this would be so hard 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, don't, it's don't. No, sorry. This is just hard like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And not 10. Okay. So this is it's actually pretty cool. Okay. You can do a lot of very, very nice things. Like we build up a lot of these capabilities step by step, and Shrig is actually the correct feeling that I want to pass. Okay. So I want to spend, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. Let's write a very simple file to do an addition. Okay. Something like a file that does 2 + 2 or something like that. You can even write in Java, in TypeScript if you liked it. You can use this. So it's fine. This is fine. Write a test. Sorry, no, this module is fine. Okay, we don't need. We just it's
do the test here.
Yeah, no. Write a new file called index. Create a new folder. Sorry, call it test. Okay, and then you put whatever you want there. I don't care. Can be anything.
Is the test written in TypeScript?
Hmm? Yeah. No, we are going to use the new import, the loader. So we do import test from node::test. Yep. And then we import that module. So import foo.
Okay.
For something from you need .foo.js.
There it is.
No, it's it's sorry.
This one?
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
And then you can do test.
Let's have this one actually return something.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So then you can do test and something, for example. Yeah, and then you can pass an async function inside to it. Yeah, you can use arrow function if you like it. If you're not, if you're crazy like me, you can not do that. Okay. Then you do. We need an assertion. So you can use whatever you want, chai or whatever module, but we have the assert module in Node. So at the top, you do import assert. It's not a name thing. Okay, you can do assert. And from a node :assert /strict. Now you want the strict version. Long story short, legacy, whatever. You want the strict version, okay? And you see TypeScript is complaining because it doesn't know about this module because you probably have some old stuff in there. So you want assert equal.
Assert
dot equal.
Oh, assert dot equal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Run the so. Now we do on the main folder in your console, you do node Control-C that. So node --test --import equals tsx. Run it. Oh, it didn't run anything. Okay. Dang. Then you need to pass. Unfortunately, these are still a bug. Go up. You need to test star. Yep.
come on.
Oh, but look at how fast it was.
It's
Consider it with
ridiculously fast.
and this is consider it with jest.
Right. Right. And so this is what we get when it doesn't pass. You get.
Yeah, but also does with dash watch.
Oh, I can watch this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's watch this. Okay. So this one is failing.
Yep.
So then I fix it. Test did not finish before its parent and was canceled.
Wait, let's see. Oh, because you're doing. Sorry. Scroll down. Cancel. Oh, this is okay. Sorry, I need to see the index.ts.
Index.ts. So test did not finish before its parent and was canceled. So is that because this is async?
No, but it's fine. Should be fine. You can remove the async, but I don't think it will change anything.
Canceled. Huh.
Very odd. Okay. I didn't know.
Do we need to like await this or something?
No, it doesn't. We're not going to change. That's not the problem.
Okay.
So it's
but it doesn't do that.
Nope.
When you just run it straight. So it's something in watch.
It's something in watch that is the combination of TypeScript and watch is still the important watch. Okay. It's tricky. Okay. Yeah, to be honest, it's you in theory you can. In practice, bugs. But I am
But
convinced.
I mean, and the cancellation of the test file itself is like, okay, if you know that that's what you're doing while you're just trying to make sure the test is running, you can ignore that.
Yeah. So now one more thing here.
Okay.
It's very nice. You can pass arguments to that function. So you can, for example, say, if you run in your code, in your terminal, in your console, run it with -- only.
Like that?
No, at the beginning. Instead -- you do -- only.
Okay.
Yeah. And now nothing is run.
Okay.
Because it's like if passing the actual file, okay, -- only / index.ts instead of the star. Yeah. Because all of this is because there's nothing. Okay. Now you can add only as an option after no. Yeah. Oh, that would work. Yeah.
And there it goes. Okay. So basically, and then does that change if I do this here?
Yeah. No, that tells you that you have specified only.
Okay.
It complains. Okay. It gives you a warning.
Yeah. So it'll run everything if you have only, but if you wanted to isolate a test because that's the one you're working on, then you can add the dot only and the only flag.
Yeah.
To only run that one test that you're working on right now.
Yeah.
That is real slick.
Well, it's a feature everywhere. I use it all the time.
Right.
Okay. So
and is this the sort of thing that? Well, I mean, but it's like it's built in. And then is there an inverse? Like I can say, I know this test is broken. Skip it.
Skip.
And then with this one,
skipped.
It's skipped, and we're on to the next one, and it shows us which ones we skipped.
Yeah, exactly. Now, something very cool that we can't really demonstrate this super easily, but there is a really nice repo from Moshe, one of the other TSC members, called Reporters. If you go and open it up, I can show you a few very nice things that are in there.
In here?
I put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat, sorry. Copy link. Here we go.
Okay. scroll down, you can do this. You can pass these reporters. Now, the important part is, for example, is the one reports /GitHub. If you're using GitHub Actions like everybody, you can, if you open it up, it will show probably a picture of it if you click on GitHub. Yeah, you will see the error inline in your PR.
That's handy.
Yeah, it is. It is, Andy. I use it all the time.
Well, and the fact that this is so you need
the
reporter module.
Yeah,
but the rest of it is using the built-in testing.
It just exactly. It just plug it into the system. You can just pass them as a command line arguments. So if you scroll down, you can see you can just do --test reporter, and you can just do, you can add JUnit, you can do whatever you need from this.
Extremely cool. And so the reporters themselves, this is great. And so this also means then presumably you can write a reporter for any destination. Like if you wanted to report errors to your Slack, you could write a reporter for Slack. If you wanted to whatever, anywhere you wanted to put that information, you have the ability to go and build one of these.
Exactly. Is actually, you can open the code. It's actually very, if you go inside here.
Yeah, let's peek at one of these.
Do the GitHub one because I played with it, so I know. And you can just open the index.js. Like this.
So we've got everything going on. How big is this? 120 lines of code to report to GitHub, which I imagine is one of the more involved use cases because it requires network requests and API keys.
This is it just works with changing the output and adding very specific commands on this format of those commands. So you need to do : is actually very odd. If you scroll down, you can see that there is some of those things. It uses the GitHub core module. So if you go up, you can see that it imports require a core module. And it's Actions core, and that's what does the trick. But in the end,
got it. Okay.
And then you can see there is a for await of a stream, this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I see what's happening here. This is slick. And then you add some extra pieces here to grab out the right details. But this is pretty I don't know. Chad, I hope your gears are turning on the types of things that open up with this, and you can probably do this with other test runners as well. But the fact that you don't need the other test runner, you can just use Node test. It's just nice to think about how much project you can build without having to install a bunch of additional projects.
Yes, absolutely. So this is what I wanted to go on, and we didn't talk about fetch.
Because fetch is built in now.
Yes. Okay. And you can thank me and all the other rest of the team. But back in 2018, and there is a video on YouTube of me, I did a presentation on the path to get this into core. And last October, we will finally able to call it stable. So it took, I don't know, a few years to get there. Okay. And right now we are still investing a lot of effort in making it faster because it's still slow from all point of view. Okay. But we are working a lot on making it faster, making it better, making it, all sorts of things. So, and it's great, and it just works out of the box. So how to work fetch, and more or less it works the same. We are still improving the compatibility, improving the use cases, but we are getting there.
Extremely cool. So we are effectively out of time. So I'm going to send everybody back to your Twitter if they want to follow along with what you're doing, what you're working on. You made fetch happen. You can go find the Node docs here. And is there anywhere else that you want people to go?
To be clear, this was a massive team effort. I just laid out a plan, and everybody else did the work. Okay, I just set up the bare bone of it, worked on the low-level piece to make it happen, the low-level API that made it possible. Then other people like Kafradev and Ethan and a lot of others contributed back and get this where it is right now. It's not just me. Absolutely, I'm not trying to I'm just saying. My basic contribution was this is the plan, and I throw the ball, built the first version of Undici and stuff, and then everything happened after that.
So where else should people go if they want to dig deeper? Is there, a specific article or resource you recommend?
On Fetch or what? Or
on just like modern Node?
Oh, yeah. Now, it is a problem. There isn't much. Okay, the website contains a lot of it, but still we need probably a lot of help in how do we communicate this in a best way, in a better way. Okay, part of me being here, Jason, is for sharing it with others, making it possible, telling people these exist. Okay, because to be honest, a lot of people don't. Okay, and still all our stuff is not there. We are currently thinking of starting an ambassador program for Node to help us teach people all this new stuff. Okay, which is not there. Like a lot of people have not don't know about it. Okay, how can we tell people how to use all of this? Okay, and of course,
so this is a good note to anybody watching. If anybody's out there thinking, I want to write more, I want to create more, I want to make more videos, and you're not sure where to start, there is a huge wealth of new information about Node that is not being covered. So this is a great way to kind of help push the web forward with your content, because if we can make enough content that it starts to take the place of those articles that are being pushed now that show 10-year-old Node code, we can modernize the whole internet together. So this is a good opportunity to get out there and build some projects using these new features and write some articles about how maybe you don't need the dependencies. You can actually build it with built-in Node modules. Those are really impactful things that you can do right now.
Yeah, exactly. So like volunteers. Node.js is built on volunteers. We have nobody directly funding the work. Okay, there are a lot of volunteers, and their companies sponsor their work. Okay, and but there's no straight on anybody working on this.
Right.
Okay, on the project. The only person that is working full time is helping us on security. So we have some money from the OpenSSF and US government and a bunch of stuff, but it's only working on security. Like Node.js, it's very active on the security front. Okay, and as you probably all know, ships a lot of security releases, and you should upgrade to latest Node to not be vulnerable, please. Pretty please. The world will thank you. Now,
yes.
A lot of you still not using that, so there is, I don't know how to fix it, but a lot of people, you're watching, you should upgrade Node. Okay, let me tell you.
Right now, do it today.
Do it today. Okay, you are not updating Node. Okay, your Node is not up to date. Okay, well, the numbers tell me that Node, you're not updating Node. Okay, so part of my presentation at CTJS was just you're not updating Node, so you can. And that's cool. Okay, so that's all of it. And thank you for having me, Jason, and thank you everybody for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Matteo. And one more shout out to our sponsors, NX and Netlify, kicking in to make this show more accessible to more people. Thank you to Vanessa for doing the live captioning today. And while you're checking out things on the site, make sure you go and check out the schedule, because we've got so much good stuff coming up. Get over there, check it out, hit the like button on here, subscribe wherever you're watching, get on the newsletter, do all the things. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.
Bye.